It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast where we love to hear about comeback stories. We love the hero's journey and we like to hear about people that know what it's like, to have it get rough on them, right? The train has come off the track. So today we've got Mike Acker, right? He's a successful speaker. He's written many books about this, 3. He's got a series. So his success is taken off. But first and foremost, I just got to give you just a real quick, Mike, if you just introduce yourself high level before we dig into the nitty gritty. Who are you? Where are you hailing from? Yeah, man, let us know just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mike Acker. I'm a husband to Taylor Acker, father to Paxton and Maggie Acker. Love those stories. Those are comeback stories in and of their own. And I, most of the time, do corporate training, keynote speaking, and then I coach a bunch of different professionals just to advance their career through using public speaking. And I am located in Austin, Texas, but from Seattle and Mexico.
Seattle, hold on a second. Real quick. All right, Seattle and Mexico. What does that mean?
Yeah. I grew up in the Seattle area and then moved to Mexico when I was 10.
Okay. All right. Hey, man. Well, I don't know if we could afford that much time, but that sounds like another journey. Now, you shared real quickly, though, that you were a pastor and then you got into the corporate space. And so, maybe you just want to pick up there, brother, because I feel like that there's something there.
Yeah.
I guess, let us know, because that sounds like a transition that didn't just happen. It wasn't an accident by any means. So walk us through that, brother. Like, what did your life look like then?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go back in time, growing up in Mexico, moved there when I was 10, and I know that there's a lot of people listening and they got to come back to a story of their own. And a lot of it's around that alcohol component. So my first drink was when I was 13 years old in Mexico at a quinceañera, 15-year-old birthday party. And I asked for something to drink and they gave me a beer. And so I was like, I don't need all, it didn't look stupid. So I drank a beer. And that progressed throughout high school. I never got drunk until 17. And where I didn't realize that vodka is not the same as a beer. And so I had a whole glass of vodka and then followed by a whole glass of some other hard liquor that I don't remember. And that was my first time, right? So I was like, that's awful. I don't know why people want to do that.
And that was in Mexico too?
Yeah,
Right.
that was in Mexico.
They have a different. They look at alcohol. It's
Oh, man.
entirely different over there.
It was totally different. Totally different. In fact, most of the time we just had a couple beers and called it good. But then I moved back to the United States for college. And at that point in time, I had some really radical encounters in faith. And I started going to church all the time and just fully committed myself to the church and not the type of Christian who just goes to church and says, I'm a Christian and such. Like I was going to the feeding centers on downtown Seattle and feeding homeless and doing all kinds of really cool stuff. And I really felt like, hey, my calling is to go out there and be a pastor. Now, alcohol during this time was very intermittent. I was in the United States, I was underage, but I worked at a restaurant. So occasionally I have a glass of wine and it played very little role. Like a lot of Europeans and Mexicans, drunkenness wasn't part of it at all.
Yeah.
So at 22 years old, I'm out of college, out of internship, and I start pastoring in a small town. Things are going great. Love it. The type of church I was part of is very much against drinking. And I was like, hey, but the people that you're putting in front of us, these are some pastors that are known for the drinking and talk about drinking and talk about it as just being something cultural. So I'm like, so you're saying one thing, but the people you're putting in front of us, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. So I had this whole conversation. I actually, at 26 years old or 25 years old, I went spoke to a whole bunch of 40 to 70-year-old senior elders that kind of oversaw this group of 300 something churches and talked to them about my perspective. It was really interesting. They're like, oh my gosh, we never even thought about it. Most of these guys have never had a drink in their life, right?
So hold on a sec, real quick, Mike. I mean, this is you're 26.
Yeah.
And you're observing something that you didn't feel is quite right. And it was the alcohol being consumed by pastors, which, it's not illegal. It's not like a requirement.
No, I actually agreed with alcohol being consumed by pastors. I was actually one of those who was like, this is stupid. Why would you make a rule against drinking alcohol?
Okay.
But the group of churches as part of it was like, no, don't drink alcohol. And this is where, if we're looking back on it, my pride got in the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I would sit down, literally these, 45-year-old men that I respect and look back on who had great passion would sit with me, like, help me understand why you think this is such a big deal and why won't you give it up? And I think there's an obstinacy there. And at this point in time, it was not an issue in my life at all. I hadn't been drunk since like I don't know, since I was one time when I was 20. And then before that was that
Or
17-year-old time.
you're right,
So
that glass of vodka you
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was not an issue, but it was, for me, it was almost like this principle and almost being right on this. So there I am in my 20s, and at 26 years old, I became a senior pastor of a small church, 75 people. The church grew and grew and grew while I was there. And within a couple of years, it's a couple hundred people. And I'm a single senior pastor who occasionally has a drink, no issue on it at all. And it was more for the taste. I would go around, take my Ducati motorcycle, go to a brewery in Washington, enjoy one beer because you don't want to have one more beer than when you're driving a motorcycle.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
and I no,
yeah.
you're right about that, man, but you're painting, man, that sounds like heavenly, brother. I mean,
It was, I really enjoyed it. And sometimes I would have two, maybe three on it. And then not when I was driving a motorcycle though. And so moving on, life, things get, I get married right around the age of 30, and we take on a different church. That church starts growing, doing some really cool stuff. I'm still in contact with that church. Fantastic church. Love that church, and really healthy in my habits. I'm not over drinking. I'm handling stress and pressure and hardship the right way, working out, prayer, meditation, thankfulness, fun, friends, all those things.
yeah,
If I look back in my life, that was an incredible, incredible season. Now, during that time, we find out that we're struggling with infertility, and we leaned in the right way, counseling, prayer, support, friends. A couple years later, we find out we're pregnant, super cool on that. And then we started looking about just moving and potentially getting closer to my wife's family, as we have now a baby and we didn't have any family in my area. And so as we start looking at that, we find a church and we go down closer to the family. And that unfortunately, I wasn't the senior person. I was kind of being ready and groomed to be the next person of this major, major church. But I worked all the time. This is a huge setting and I worked a ton. And so I'm working 6, 7 days a week. And eventually my workout starts dropping, not CrossFit. So eventually I start drinking a little bit more, a little bit more,
mm,
and a little bit more. And I would say that this began the bottom period where I'd come home at night and sometimes finish a whole bottle of wine.
yeah,
And I'm dealing with the loss of a dream of being a pastor in Washington State and the network that I had created. I'm dealing with the frustration of, yet again, we're trying to have kids. It can't have kids. But we don't have the support. I'm dealing with there was a lot of pressure. I didn't like the work environment. I liked my job, but I didn't like the work environment that I was in. I struggled with some different issues there. And so it comes to a point where I'm just miserable.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
start blaming others, and I start drinking more and more and more. And I'm feeling these two-sidedness. And honestly, I get depressed, and I've never experienced depression like this. And I remember driving down the road one time and on my way home, and after, a long, long another day, and I was working 7 days a week because I had to. Sometimes people say, pastors are just in it for the money. No, they aren't. Maybe there's, 0.01%, but the vast
Right.
majority are just, hey, I want to help people. I want to serve people. And I'm driving home and I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to pull off on the side of the road off the cliff. But if someone
Mm.
hit me right now and my car went over the side of the cliff and I ended up in a coma for 6 months, I'd be okay with that.
See, and that's such a peculiar difference, because I think it's so dangerous when you're indifferent about life. Like, people that are actively suicidal, that's one way, but I was like how you're describing. I was indifferent about life. I just really couldn't care less. Like, it just didn't matter, and man, that's a hopeless place to be.
Right. And so what do you do with that emotion? You go home and you drink a bottle of wine.
Yeah, because why not? Because why not, right? Like,
And then your spiral and things. So eventually I'm like, I need to go to a counselor. I need to go talk to somebody about everything I'm processing. So I start feeling like, oh my gosh, there's the death of a dream. Oh my gosh, the friendship and network. Oh my gosh, the work environment and being out of control and the struggle on this. Now, one thing good happened here. There are a couple different things. You can find those pieces looking back. But one of the things is I needed money. I mean, I did not make a lot at this large church. And so I started doing weddings on the weekends on my day off and on Friday evenings and Saturdays. So I'm not with the family, but I'm making money. And I started doing public speaking lessons that people would find me, and I would take a walk and do a public speaking lesson. I'd been coaching for years. I was in debate in college, overcame tons of stuff. So I had been one of those guys with a speech impediment, with anxiety, with all those things who overcame it.
Wow.
So I could relate and empathize. And then also I knew how to get out of it. So I
Sure.
started
Okay.
coaching
Yeah.
people on the side on this. And now the situation comes to a head and I quit the church. I'm like, hey, I'm done. I got to get out of here. So I'm at a barbecue with some friends. We went back to Washington State to visit some friends that summer. The church that I had pastored flew us out just to honor us for the years we had led incredibly well. And the new pastor was like, man, I just appreciate you. Come on out to the church. We'll fly you guys out and stuff. So we're there with some friends from that church. And I said, you know what? You know how sometimes you just say something? And I just
Mhm.
said, you know what? I'm just been thinking about doing something different. Now, I've been pastoring for 18 years, trained on it, educated in it, ready to do it, well set up, well networked. And the guy says, I'd hire you in a heartbeat. I said, what do you do? We worked for a Fortune 500 company who's a manager, and he oversaw veterinary distribution. And I said, what is that?
Yeah. I guess that's exactly what I
Yeah.
was going to ask
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Basically, anything a veterinarian needs, they bring in x-rays to medicine to cotton swabs, anything.
Right.
So I said, I don't know anything about that, but I'm open. So I jump on a call with a recruiter. And this is where I tell people how public speaking is the great multiplier. So if you know something and you have public speaking, the greater the public speaking skills, the higher the multiplier.
Mm.
Now, I knew barely anything about this industry, just enough to like BS myself through. But my speaking and my presentation, my presence got on the phone call, and she called the hiring manager afterwards, says, this guy is the least educated and least experienced in this field, but he's the best candidate.
Right. Right.
Now,
Man. Yeah. So
it-
I can attest for that.
yeah,
It could be a gift. Like I remember from a movie I saw, it was like they coined the phrase creative articulation. It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And you can get away with so much if you just layer it perfectly, man. You could outright just insult somebody right to their face. And if you do it just in a particular kind of way, they'll look at you and smile. So it's
yeah, no,
it's
absolutely. I always tell people like, hey, I work with people who already know what they're doing. They're high on their education, experience, and the work ethic. So I'm not going to teach you how to BS, but I'm going to add your presence to your execution to have you have more executive presence. But I'm not just going to add presence and no execution. I don't want to create
Sure.
BSers. That's not the legacy I want to leave.
Right. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I was speaking my own experience, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. It's actually
Yeah,
a whole thing I bring up at my workshops and such. Yeah. 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 It's pretty funny.
So, all
But
right.
it's funny as I did it, I kind of BS my way through on this. Although I didn't lie on it. I just said I spoke well. And then I got the job. So we're getting a good spot. The counseling's going well. My wife and I are working through all these different issues, and we decide, hey, we're going to take this opportunity. We're going to move back to the United States. We're going to move back to Seattle from California. Sometimes it feels like a different country. So we move back up to Seattle area, and I start this job. Things are going well, and I'm back to just kind of my normal every now and then drink, no problem at all. And then I find out that the sales culture is highly, highly, highly just full of alcohol.
Mhm.
And so I go to this one event, right? And I end up blackout drunk for the first time in my life. And I'm like, whoa. And it was actually one of those things that made me question who I was. Cause I'm like, I don't see myself as that type of person. And I'm waking up in the morning going like, is anybody here? I hope not. And there was nobody. Like, I didn't know like what happened. I don't know how I got back. It was just crazy on that. And I checked to make sure I didn't do anything ridiculous. It was awful. And it was just felt so miserable. I had to travel that day. And so then I'm started thinking like, do I have a problem with alcohol? And that was the first time I thought. I remember thinking to myself and telling my wife, I said, I might be an alcoholic. Now, I was able to stop drinking and curtail it. And a few months later, I'm not drinking at all. I'm back in a really good spot. I'm like, okay, I'm in this corporate
Now, well,
world.
hold on a second though. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike, that's recent though, right? Like
That was
I mean,
2000. That was 2018.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That was 2018.
Right.
But that
I thought it was
began my series of stopping and binging.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because
And
I mean, I
yeah.
just I'm gonna kind of pull a little bit of the curtain back, but like it's been a year now that you've been completely free of alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in
So,
between that interim, that you used the word binging. So what did that look like?
yeah. So what happened just like that one time where I would get completely drunk and And then, so basically we went away, COVID hit, and I was like, I'm going to be sober. I'm going to stop drinking 100%. I'm actually going to go back into pastoring. I got this all figured out, and like went through everything and got like reordained, did the whole process of making sure that, hey, I'm not going to drink anymore and all that kind of stuff. COVID hits, which everybody's plan, it gets thrown up and right. So we're in an environment, stress is hitting. I'm like, am I going to get my job? I better start working on the coaching stuff that I was doing on the side a little bit. What am I going to do? How am I going to go about doing this and everything? And I just written a book because I was coaching on the side, and I was like, here I was still doing it for fun, for some fun money. And one of my clients is like, you should write a book about this. So I wrote a book. The book starts taking off. So I've got this new job. The book's taking off. It's COVID. This job over here ends up the veterinary job. I can't go to see my clients and stuff. I'm doing really well in it, but I can't see them because you can't drive anywhere. And there's only so many times you can call. So I start leaning into the coaching and the writing and stuff. And I published my third and fourth book during that time because I was like, what else to do during COVID, right?
Hey, that's constructive use of the time, brother. Not everybody is productive.
Yeah. And so that began the next series of years where it's up and downs and lots of uncertainty, lots of turmoil, lots of frustration, some resentment, things like that. And so for the next several years, what would happen is I would say, okay, I'm not going to drink. So 2020, I'm not going to drink. And then slowly start drinking. And then all of a sudden get drunk. Shoot, that's not who I want to be. Stop drinking. And the periods where I stopped drinking for 3 months, 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, 6 months. And then I would, have some reason to drink again. And convince myself like, hey, I've proven that I'm not an alcoholic.
Right.
Yeah, I'm okay.
You had mentioned to your wife, you said that the suspicion was back in 2018 that you think, alcoholism is lurking. It's like in your blood, if you will, or however some people, they perceive it differently. But you were aware since then that this could be an issue. And so that yo-yo effect, man, I've been there.
And that's what it was. And maybe I've talked to some people and the yo-yo effect is shorter. And so it's like a month or a week or something. Mine ended up being a longer string.
Right. Yeah.
But the effect was always at the end where I'm crashing down.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back to it.
That doesn't make it it doesn't necessarily make it better. I think that it's a little more unique, but yeah, you're right. Like, cause my yo-yo had a string so short, it was like 6 hours long. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's the same notion and the same problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because several of the clients I work with all these professionals who want to upgrade their public speaking. And so as we're talking, sometimes they'll go like, yeah, I'm sober for X amount of years. And so we always find this point of connection. I always like to listen to them and hear what they're saying and what they did. And it's just amazing. So I get to the spot where I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to drink. I'm telling people I'm not going to drink even to that point in time. But something always came up and just it did, boom. My mind, how everything's so interlaced, right? And so I'm talking to my dad too, and my grandpa died out of alcoholism. So it does run in the family. My dad doesn't drink at all. The last time he was having some drinks, he started getting cravings for it. So he stopped.
Wow.
Ultra disciplined person. So he doesn't drink at all and
Right.
hasn't drinking for years and years and years and years.
Wow.
And he's like cautioning me on this, but there's this little bit of pride, right? And so what ends up happening is this yo-yo's just getting out of control, and the crash is getting worse and worse and worse. Like where I'm just like, this isn't who I want to be. And we overcome infertility again, IVF, have our daughter, and I get drunk like a couple of weeks afterwards. And my wife's like, look, you got to do something about this. And I just looked at it and thought, you know what? This is an issue. I can't do this. And I always told myself, I've got this, which is what every alcoholic says, right?
Right.
I've got this.
Right.
And I just looked at it and said, I don't got this.
Yeah.
And I can't drink again because I've seen it now for 7 years. I've been doing this yo-yo. Now, sometimes it's 10 months long, but something would come up, some stress, some excuse, some party, something. And I would say, wow, it's not a big deal. But you know that when Snapchat came out and everybody was obsessed about their streaks.
Yeah.
And
like what happened to Snapchat, right? Like I feel like it disappeared, but you're right. There was a streak and people took that serious, man. And it was like
so serious.
How many days in a row that you did something or communicated with one person? Was that what it was? Or
yeah, something like that. I never did it. I never had a Snapchat, but But that's actually what I realized was that the moment I broke the streak, I just gave myself permission.
Mm,
And
right.
so I would, so I'd tell myself, like, I'd say, like, well, like, it's a special occasion. It's so and so's birthday. I'll just have a drink on it. And then I'll go back to it. But then in my mind, I'd be like, oh, I mean, a drink sounds good. And I did fine when I broke that drink. And so then I'd have one drink. And then a week later, I'd have two drinks. And then, 3 weeks later, I'd have two drinks. Then 2 months later, I'd have four drinks. And so that's how it progressed. And all of a sudden, it's like it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. I'm successful during this time. The work is going well. I'm doing
Mm,
different things on it. And so, but a year ago, I just said, enough is enough. I got a brand new baby. I'm starting the brand new company, a new variation of what I've done, but actually going to build a company around it. And I just can't. I can't for my age. I can't for my health. I can't. My son is 11. I don't want him to see his dad doing this. I can't for my marriage. I can't just for my health. I can't for my own mind. And I can't be the guy who just always is able to have one or two, three drinks. I have those people. I have friends. It's like that one drink. They might even not finish the drink. Maybe they have two,
right.
but they're never drunk. And I just know that if I start drinking, it might not be in a month or two or three, but within the year, I will overdrink.
What a real blessing that you're able to have that level of awareness. And then even your own dad, right? His level of awareness is perfect. To know, to be drinking mid-drink and say, "Wait a second, I like this a little too much, and maybe
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this," I mean, I'm so envious of that. However, it doesn't matter because you made that choice and you've drawn a line in the sand, and now that's you've set it up and you're committed to it, and that's what it takes. And man, I admire that so much. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Your family, that they're if it's not outwardly expressed, that they're going to be so thankful. And even if it's not expressed at all, you've got to understand, you do clearly, that they're gonna be so thankful they never saw that guy blacked out. And I'm kinda like that with my own son. My son's 2. And the guy who was almost blacked out nonstop for years, right? Like, that guy is gone. That guy is dead. He's never gonna know that guy, and your children aren't gonna know that guy either. And that's just it's so amazing.
If I look back and go, almost every single regret, like an attitude that I have, a fight I got in, just whatever, almost everything I can say, like, actually, I was under the influence of alcohol. Yeah, obviously that stuff is inside me, and alcohol is just removing the
Sure.
inhibitions.
Sure, sure,
So I've
sure.
had to deal with some of the pride and some of the different areas in there, and put myself in situations where I'm not going to be in that.
Yeah,
And sometimes if I feel like stuck, that's for me a spot where, like, if I feel trapped, I feel that's an area, it's a trigger for me where
yeah,
I'm going to want to. So I got to be careful of not getting stuck
yeah,
in that. And there's a couple other triggers. And just looking at those triggers, going, okay, let me remove myself from those triggers
yeah, yeah.
so I'm not doing that. And also being aware of them because I can't fully remove myself from every trigger,
Sure. Yeah,
but being part of it. And then even going on a place like this and talking about, hey, I'm not going to drink again,
yeah.
and making that is helpful.
Oh, yeah,
And saying it to different friends and saying it to different environments on that.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the longest I've ever gone in my life besides before 13 where I haven't drank.
Well, congratulations, man. And so what do you have, like, are you going that route? Do you have, like, a day count or anything? Is that how you're doing it? Or are you just kinda doing it like, it's been a year, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think officially, if I remember the date right, it was like July 23rd or something, and that I did it. But I think I'm August 1st is kind of like I'm when I run, I always, so like this last week I ran 8 miles, but I always run a little bit more. So I go 8.15. So
You
for me, it's like, it's not just the 1 year, it's the 1 year and some. So
Yeah,
in my mind, August 1st is that anniversary.
yeah,
And if I could say, like, if I would go back in anything though and change anything in my life, it'd be the decision to drink. All those pastors who are well meaning, I'm now the age they were when they were speaking into me, sitting down with me. And I'm like, gosh, I had wish I had listened to them. But my pride, my thought that I'm unable to be conquered, it got in the way, ultimately pride. And if I could look back and go, man, Matt, Don, I get it now. I
Yeah.
get it now. And I wish that I had listened to you. And so if some young men are going like, I've got this, I'm just tuning in for something. And my encouragement would be like, what does it really bring into your life? Sure, I've enjoyed some moments in drinking. And absolutely, there's some times where it comes up, I quelch that right away. Just don't need it. Doesn't add anything significant. Since then, it's interesting. I haven't talked about it at all with my son, like walked him through this scenario. And he knows I used to. Something triggered this last year. He's like, you know what, Dad, I don't ever want to have alcohol in my life. I have no idea what triggered that.
Wow.
And then my daughter, who's one, said the same thing. No one could understand it, but she just said, "Ba ba ba ba." I'm like, no bottles for you either.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but my wife is like, you know what? I'm gonna stop drinking too. Now she never had the issue I had,
Right.
and she would 1, 2 drinks, totally fine.
Well,
But
it's just it's so important that people understand that, you know, well, I think collectively we're starting to understand that the upside is not nearly what we were kind of, I don't like to use the word brainwash, but the picture of celebrations, and I mean, it goes all the way back to biblical references, right? Wine has been a part
yeah,
of a story. It really has. And so I mean, that is very deeply ingrained in our culture, across cultures all over the globe. But now I think that I would like to believe that people are starting to understand the upside biologically is well, I mean, the downside biologically isn't worth it. It just isn't worth it.
right.
And then the trouble and the other issues that come along with it, because to your point, all of the, well, maybe not all, but a large portion of the troubles and arguments and these tough circumstances that you suffer from, there was an alcohol influence in them that made them worse. It made you behave differently and not in the good kind of way. And so you suffered a negative consequence of that substance being in your body. And if you look at the statistics, this is off the charts. The statistics of like domestic violence and those situations involving alcohol, it's like off the charts. It's almost all of them include alcohol. And so I think that the more we understand, the more I think there is a shift. And so in getting to talk about it
You know, it's, it,
regularly.
it's so interesting. I was listening to some guy talking to his kid about going to middle school because my son's going to middle school. And he said, if anybody hands you a pill, don't take it. That guy is trying to get someone to sign off on his bad behavior. In other words, if that guy gives you a pill, now he can blame. He's like, well, I was doing it with so and so. And I think a lot of times what we do with alcohol is we drink alcohol so we can blame alcohol. Like
Yeah.
we want to act a certain way, but we don't want to own it and be like, I just want to be mean and crude and rude and just tell Ryan off. But if I drink a whole bunch, then I remember when I was a pastor, I had this girl come in and she came into my office and she said, "Hey, Pastor Mike, I have been sleeping with a whole bunch of guys when I get drunk, but I only do it when I'm drunk. And I don't see myself as that type of person." And we chatted about this, and I've thought back at that and said, she wanted to do this behavior that she thought was wrong, but she didn't have the guts to just say, I'm going to do this behavior and screw everything else. Just, I'm going to do this. So she would go get drunk, and then she goes, wow, that alcohol made me do it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we want a scapegoat. So I want to just do this, but you know what? I can't do that. And so I'm going to drink, and it allows us to bring out our bad behavior or
What about
depression
the
or
I'm
whatever.
I'm curious, when you're doing speaking and things like that, and you're doing these sales things, I know that like speaking is it's a fearful thing to do. Public speaking is a major fear for most people. Did you ever drink before you did it? Did you ever like,
Yeah.
no, no?
No. So, I mean, my public speaking fear, I really worked on. So I talk about, I wrote several books, and one book's called Speak
Right.
with Confidence. And I talk about
Exactly.
there's three
Yeah.
sources of overcoming the fear of speaking. And yeah, it's right in my office here. If you're watching the video, there's a
Right.
picture of it right here, red and
Yeah.
black on their traditionally published book. And I talk about there's three sources of overcoming fear and really developing confidence. And so the first one is knowing who you are, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, your identity, your message, and skills. So I worked through those when I was in college and in my young adult years, working through to become really understanding who I am and not feeling like an imposter
Mm,
in that. So I never needed alcohol to do it because it actually makes me worse at what I knew I was good at.
sure.
And And even some of the clients I work with, they'll come to me, they'll read my book, Speak with No Fear, which is the top rated book in the world on overcoming fear of speaking. If you Google or ask ChatGPT best books on public speaking,
Oh,
often
yeah.
that book will show up.
Yeah, I saw it, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's like holding that number one spot. Like my book was number one in the alcoholism genre, but it was like 3 days.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I still got there, but no, it's to hold that spot, man. And it's, I mean, yes, it is a highly successful book. That is for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I love that. And it's partly what launched me out of corporate. And I said, I can take this option. So, but sometimes people come to me because they read my book and they'll say, I'm on beta blockers or Panadol just to be able to do it. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to try to go into that too much. Usually, if you're not using that too often, I don't think there's a big issue with it. Again,
Right.
I'm not a doctor. However, I don't want to have anything to be able to do what I need to do. And
Right.
so a lot of the people I work with are getting off propranolol and beta blockers, overcoming their fear of speaking and developing it. I met with someone today, VP of marketing, and he was level 9 fear when we came
Uh-huh.
in, 9 out of 10. And he said today, self-report, he said, I'm down to a 2. Yeah, because there's a process and you work on it. So you work on the foundation, you work on how to do it, and you get the feedback and you work through some of these issues that make you fearful and you get through it. And so that's what I love doing. Yeah, I've never had to use alcohol for that. For me, alcohol was something fun, an accelerator of fun, social. I'm highly social, enjoying that. And then I would lose track of it. And then you need more and more to have the same amount of fun as you did. So it just kept on, my tolerance grew on that. Dealing with anxiety, being trapped, frustration, those kind of things, just an escape on it. So
Yeah.
now I've got new escape mechanisms, book, running, climbing, activities with the family,
Yeah.
things like that. And so I've
Yeah, I gotta tell you that
refilled it.
the handful of times that I've been on stage, and you being a pastor, I feel like you can get on board with this, but man, a lot of times I do a lot of preparation, if I know that if I wanna be speaking, like, I'll do a lot of preparation, and I've got a bit of a system, but man, when I get up there, I just let the Holy Spirit go, man. I honestly, and most times, all of the times I've been on stage, I, like, look back and people are like, "Man, that was so good," and I don't remember a single thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I just I know, I understand that, there you can get ahead of it, and I think that's a responsible thing to do if you are going to be sharing, with a group of people. You need to come prepared and do right by them. But yes, I just let the Holy Spirit kinda take it and run with it. But, I use or I do public speaking and, like, what I do. But so how does it look like for you these days? Like, who do you work with? Is it predominantly corporate America? Because man, you've been doing this for a while, brother, and you've had a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
success with it. So I wanna know what that looks like for you. Like, who's working with you, and how
Yeah.
does it look like these days?
I really feel like the summer of 2026 or summer 2025 last year was really a turning point year for us. We wrapped up some obligations. We made a move to a new house, new city.
When
I
you say
left
"we," you're talking about your family?
my wife and I and our kids. Yeah, we had the baby and I stopped drinking. So all these kind of things happened at the same time. New school for my son. It was just a fresh start. I don't think you need to do everything new and move everything new to have a new start. So if people are like listening, like, I wish I could have everything new. You don't have to. There's been moments in my life where I had newness right where I was at. But there's a lot of things that coincided. And the same thing coincided was, instead of just doing some coaching or hiring myself out for different companies, which I had done before, instead, I'm going to start a new company and build it. And we're going to build a company, not just a brand, not just a person, that helps people upgrade their public speaking. And before, like, I've been, for years I did coaching, launched out of corporate, did all kinds of coaching, executive coaching, leadership coaching. You name it, I did it back then because it was brand new to the entrepreneurship and starting something. And so now what I've done in the summer of last year, and really I consider really this September being like the new month, because that's when everything got really up and running. And by then I was 1 month sober. And so I just really feel like that's like a brand new month. It's also my birthday month. And so over the last year, I've been building Uplevel Communication, and we help professionals, business people, entrepreneurs, leaders upgrade their public speaking. Now, how do we do that? We do it through books. I write several books, have written several. We do it through corporate training. So I'll be taking two of the people that work with me, we're going to be speaking and working with a group of people doing that. I'm going to Budapest, Hungary. They found me on ChatGPT, General Electric, speaking for a corporate training event. Just came back from a large hospital there. So training events, keynote speaking, and one-on-one programs. So I have a one-on-one program that I work with people, and it's not just a class, it's not a course. You work literally with me one-on-one for 3 to 6 months. And the gains that people make is just incredible, incredible. So that's what I do now. And I love it. I mean, has it been absolutely stress-free? Have there been some times where I wish alcohol was available to me? Yeah. I mean, it was a brand new company starting it off, and I launched it with just a whole bunch of my own personal capital going, hey, let's launch marketing. Let's get all these assets, do all this kind of stuff. Let's hire some contractors. Let's do all this. So 100% times where I paid my staff and not me. But looking back at it, it's been incredible. And I'm definitely not at the spot now. And I got some incredible clients, incredible engagements coming up. I'm so grateful for it. Every single day I start with prayer. Help me help people, whether it's on a book, a coaching program, a stage, or a podcast. Help me help people. So as you're listening, that's my goal here. Help me help people. Whether you just need to know that, hey, you're not alone in that cycle of needing something, or you're just wanting a comeback. My gosh, I have so many regrets, so many things I wish I'd done stupid, and so many things I wish I'd not done and not left pastoral ministry in because of the different reasons I left it. Not that proud, so proud on this. And so many, but I'm at a spot now where I serve in the church we attend. I like the church that we attend. My wife and I are in a good spot. Our kids and I are in a good spot. God and I are in a good spot.
Yeah.
And the comeback is just the beginning
Right.
of something more incredible than I've ever built before.
I want to know, man, because and through this, and that's why I asked, who's we, and you were saying your family, and you have this company going and all that. How did that journey look like for your wife? Like, in that, say, since last year, right? Like, and you had mentioned several times, like, it wasn't all smooth sailing, man. How did that look like for you guys? Like launching a company and having, to pay your people and not yourself sometimes. I mean, I imagine that's a tough talk to have with wifey, right?
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate the trust that she's had in me on that. I mean, we also had a baby. So, all these kind of things, we're doing it. And there's definitely some moments where some things that have not worked out, she's like, I'm just so frustrated that this didn't work out. Not at me, it's the situation, the things that happened on that. And, we moved. So I was contracting myself out for a company, and that was a crap show. They went through like 40 people in 8 months. I was like, this is going to be a great spot. I'm speaking for them. I'm doing a lot of stuff for them. I'm building a team for them. Did all kinds of great stuff for them. And we moved cities for them. And I won't say the name of the company, but my gosh, it was just a total crap show. When you have 40 people quit the company, and there's only 40 people in the company, that means the same role is turning over multiple times and people are coming in and out right away. So I was like, I think I was number 39th or something. And it's continued since I left. So
Wow.
there's frustration and some, like, we've had to deal with some bitterness. Like, I can't believe you misled us and we did all this.
Yeah.
But finding times to find that joy, finding times to do that. And right now, we just feel so incredibly blessed on it, that some of the hard work and the difficulties and the struggles and staying generous through it, staying positive through it, working through it. We definitely have not done everything perfect, 100%.
Right.
But right now, I'd say that if you look at the last year, the trend has been consistently up and a little bit back versus up, down, up, down. I mean, there's definitely been nights where I lay at night going, what did I do? Why did I do this? And all that kind of stuff. But my gosh, man, it's been
Yeah.
so incredible. And I love that my books and my speaking, everything I get to do helps people.
Yeah. I asked that question as a loaded question because, I apologized to my wife because I said, baby, I'm not the guy who has a stable job and I work and we've got this beautiful pension and then I retire at 62. Like, I'm not that guy. I do ideas. I have stuff I want to create, and if you are that type of person, man, it could be a bit of a roller coaster. But I just keep letting her know, that God has me where He wants me, and I'm on His path. And it's not the safest, I suppose. It's not a straight path, that's for sure. I know that
Yeah.
without a doubt. It's got some ups and downs and some lefts and rights, and yeah, the road may be it may turn into a dirt pavement at times, and who knows? But it's such a glorious path to be on, man, and I appreciate that so much, brother. So, if you could just give us, what do we have to look forward to? Because, man, you're a person of ideas, and now you're in the midst of creating this company. Is this company official? What's the name of this company? And
Yeah. So this company is official. If you're watching the show, it's like Uplevel Communication on there, and like helping people upgrade, helping people up level themselves, and specifically communication. So I sure instead of doing a whole bunch of stuff, I focus on communication. Communication's the multiplier on it. So that's what I do. That's what I speak about. That's what I train on. That's what I help people with. That's what I write about. Communication
glorious, man. All
and
right, man.
and help
Yeah.
people do that. And the goal now is corporate centers, training centers that are going to be hubs for the areas that have more clubs, intensives. Right now, almost everything's online. And then I speak at events, but actually hosting some events and bringing people in. When I go to different places, I'll do like a 4-hour workshop. And I've been so incredibly privileged for people to go, man, we wish it was longer.
Wow.
And so there's been repeat customers, repeat situations going back. So the years to come is building out that team, building out some hubs, and creating a name for communication. That when you think communication, it's not Mike Acker specifically. Yes, I'll be a part of that, but it's up-level communication.
Up level. I love it, man. That's absolutely glorious, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And man, it's such a blessing that you are the man that you are for your family, because that's my goal too, brother. I have a similar goal as yours, right? And so, well, it's been another episode of The Next Fix, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.